On this episode, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn ads and especially the mathematics and economics that actually make most sense when it comes to the campaigns that you're about to run. We're also going to be talking about the dual focus that you should have that most advertisers don't, how account-based marketing is changing, and how better performing targeting and segmentation can work to your advantage.
Ever wonder why some companies grow faster than others? What are they doing differently? And what are their secret ingredients? That's what this podcast is all about. Welcome to Boost Sauce.
This podcast is brought to you by Client Boost, which is our pay-per-click and conversion rate optimization agency, and also Kite, which is our pay-per-click software. Today, we have some very special guests. We have AJ Wilcox from B2 Linked, old friend of mine who actually used to run the highest advertising budget on LinkedIn. And we also have two amazing people, Alex Rinn and Ty Heath, who are both LinkedIn employees that are giving us a little bit of the inside scoop when it comes to the campaigns that actually perform best. Now, as we approach and go forward with this episode, please take the time to subscribe and also rate us. The more ratings that we can have, the more subscribers we have, the bigger the guests we can actually attract on this show. So we want your feedback. We want to make it better too. So we're definitely going to be reading them. And if you're sick of looking at me or listening to my voice, that's fair too. Just let me know. All right, let's call our first guest.
Go for AJ.
AJ, this is Jonathan and Matt over here at Boost Sauce. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Great to talk to you guys.
Awesome. Hey, we're the ones super thankful for this. We've been following you for a while and know you're one of the premier experts on LinkedIn advertising. So super thankful that you're going to be helping share some nuggets with our audience. I have with me our director of paid social, Matt Nelson, here too. So if you're okay with it, we're going to start with some questions and kind of see where this goes. Is that okay with you?
Bring it on.
Awesome. So if you're a brand new advertiser to LinkedIn, some of the common, I think, misconceptions that we see is that we, obviously hear that LinkedIn advertising is expensive. You better sell something of very high margin in order to actually make it work. Can you kind of get us started with, some of the objections that you might have when you're talking to people who are thinking about LinkedIn advertising and how you basically solve those?
Absolutely. See, here's the thing is that when people are thinking about LinkedIn ads, they automatically gravitate to targeting because the targeting is amazing for B2B. We can target by job title, by department, by seniority, skills, groups, company name, company size, company industry. And that's probably only about a fifth of what's available.
Okay.
It's extremely powerful.
Okay.
So I think everyone's interested in that targeting if you're in B2B.
For sure.
The big challenge that you mentioned that everyone seems to know about LinkedIn ads is, boy, they're expensive. I mean, the average cost per click is somewhere between about $6 and $9 US.
Okay.
And because of that, LinkedIn has priced themselves out of the market for certain types of businesses. So immediately what I tell people is, of course you want the targeting because you're B2B, but realize that because it costs more upfront, you need more of a payoff on the back end to make sure that you see a return on your investment.
Okay.
So what we find is an average of, if you have a customer lifetime value of somewhere around $15,000 or more, LinkedIn ads seems to be an absolute no-brainer. We've seen people make it work with less, and that just means that you've got to be a little bit more efficient than your competition.
Sure.
But you can make it work. But that's what we try to start people with is make sure you've got a budget between about $3,000 and $5,000 a month to start,
Okay.
so that you can actually see the business impact. And it's usually between those that amount of spend where your data down to the conversion rate becomes statistically significant.
Got it.
It's pretty awesome by the end of a month to be able to say, we know that this is working, let's scale it.
Yeah.
Or no, this is crap, we should cut it.
All right, so I'm going to give you two nuggets right there. The first one that you basically said was in regards to the starting budget of $3,000 to $5,000, and the second one, which is another nugget, isn't going to be in regards to the average lifetime value, which you said about $15,000 or higher, right? So if you're not within that ballpark already, maybe it's not the best thing to get started because you do need an average, pay to play kind of in this LinkedIn ads game in order to see any type of traction.
Absolutely. And of course, like I said, you can make it work with less, but what it means is you've got to be really buttoned up. You've got to have an amazing sales follow-up nurture kind of sequence, and you've got to have the right content for it. So we'll dive into that here a little bit later, I'm sure.
Okay, awesome. So let's say that we basically fit that criteria. We have the budget. Our lifetime values are that or higher. The first type of campaign that you would recommend getting started with, what would that be?
For the vast majority of advertisers, I suggest starting with sponsored content.
Okay.
This is the ad that appears right in your newsfeed. It came out in 2013, and you can expect to pay somewhere between about $6 and $9 per click.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're in the newsfeed, they get so much more traction than the vast majority of other ads, meaning that with a very small audience, you can still actually drive traffic. So we get super, super targeted, and we still get enough data to show for it. And expect about 80+% of your traffic to come from mobile, just because people are in their timeline from the mobile app quite a bit.
Got it. Okay. So basically, for the people who are unaware right now, in our world, when Matt and I are talking about setting things up for our clients, whether it be LinkedIn ads or other type of platforms, there's basically three things that we think are part of this. There's the audience. So whether it's remarketing or direct, like you said, job roles, titles, seniority, there's the ad itself, and then there's like the offer, like the call to action, right? So you just talked about the type of campaign. Is there anything from a priority standpoint that you see in regards to the type of audience that you should start with as well?
Yeah, so this is actually really interesting that you bring this up. We use an acronym to describe exactly what you just shared.
Nice.
And we call it AMO, and it stands for audience, message, and offer.
Okay.
So from a message perspective, yeah, it's the image you use, it's the ad copy you use, it's the ad format you use, and that's all pretty easy to figure out.
Right.
The audience, we just talked about, obviously there's the targeting, that's why we go to LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
But the offer is by far the most important part of any LinkedIn ads campaign.
I'm gonna give you a nugget for that.
Oh, good. Thank you. This is great. I love the immediate feedback. But yeah, if you send someone to an ad that basically just says, click here to talk to our high pressure sales rep,
Right.
No one's going to click that ad. So you'll end up with poor relevancy scores and your ad will just shut off.
Right.
And if you send someone to the very top of the funnel, like here's a blog post, obviously there's very little friction there, but you're still going to pay $6 to $9 to send someone to something that doesn't have a strong call to action. And eventually you'll have to go and tell someone, hey, if it's the boss or the CEO or the board, hey, we're averaging like $1,000 a conversion here. And someone's going to say, shut it down.
Right.
So what you want to do is land somewhere in the middle, like it's always gated content, something like a free guide or a checklist or a webinar, a free ebook, a free in-person event, something like that that's of a lot of value to get them to be willing to engage with you.
Got it. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah, AJ, I'm sure you've ran into this frequently, and we do here as well, where say a B2B software company comes to you and they go, hey, when you ask them what their offer is and all they say is, oh, I have a free demo.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that the middle of the funnel is very, very important. When you run into situations like that, when they're like, well, all I have is a free demo, what's your approach to trying to get them to, expand their product offering or, add some white papers or free guides or anything like that?
Well, there are a couple things that you can do with just a demo. They're usually not very scalable, but they're worth testing. So the first would be just go ahead and try sending ads straight to the demo. And it's about 95% of the time that fails, but about 5% of the time the client actually has a product or a service that is so disruptive, people have been waiting for it and they're actually willing to engage
Got it.
on a limited basis.
Got it.
And because you're only paying when someone clicks, nice.
Another nugget.
You only pay when someone clicks. Obviously there's not a whole lot of risk. If they put the ad out there and no one clicks on it,
Yeah.
it's not attractive. Well, then the worst thing that we're out is simply our management fee in managing it.
Right.
So it's pretty good. And then the other thing is if they already have good traffic on their website and into their offer pages, if they've got just a demo, we could start by just doing LinkedIn retargeting and having that kind of aid their Google and Facebook retargeting as well. And that can be a good place to start if they're not willing to invest in content yet.
For sure. So it sounds like basically the acronym AMO, which is missing one M, right? It's just AMO. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we just talked about the offer and how important that is to not come across as like something that's of a high pressure sales scene, like a demo or a quote or a consultation, it sounds like, which is very similar to what we call the PPC temperatures of all advertising platforms and like how that's set up. Now, you mentioned something really interesting in regards to you may get more luck or better performance if you start with remarketing or what people also call retargeting. Can you explain to the people listening what that kind of audience is and why that can be outperforming, maybe not volume-wise, but at least like a cost per acquisition-wise compared to other audiences out there?
Yeah, the nice thing is with LinkedIn's retargeting, it is a little bit of a discount over just a cold audience. So on a cold audience, we expect we're going to pay $6 to $9 a click. But if you're approaching a retargeting audience, and this is special, a list upload audience where you bring your own data, those audiences cost less.
Okay.
There's less competition around them, and you can get a discount on your CPC.
Interesting.
So start out with warm traffic, people who already know, like, and trust you, and of course, performance is going to be better. Anyway, down to the conversion, plus you'll pay less per click.
And is that something to do in regards to that there's also higher engagement, and because there's higher engagement, that means that the cost per clicks will be reduced too, or is that completely different?
Yeah, it definitely contributes to it. So that's one side. And then the other side is if you bring data to LinkedIn and say, just target these people, whether it's website audiences that you've delivered or an email list or a company name list, you go to them and essentially say, just target this list. They didn't have to apply very many audience segments on top of that. So they end up not having your bidding floor start as high. So for most audiences, our bidding floor starts $450 to $525. So you pay, the lowest you'd pay is $450 to $525 per click. But you bring your own data, and all of a sudden LinkedIn will let you bid like $350 sometimes.
Interesting. So there's a way to circumvent that. I'm going to give you another nugget for that. That was pretty interesting too. I didn't know that because when we began the conversation, it was like $6 to $9 on average. But that sounds like if you're using LinkedIn's own data, not your own that you're bringing to the table, it's kind of like a potluck.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if your ads get really high engagement rates, then you end up, getting a really high relevancy score. Seeing that LinkedIn's going to show your ads more often, so you end up getting more volume at a lower cost. It's pretty beautiful when you can nail that.
So it seems like to me that it would be kind of a no-brainer for any advertiser, for that matter, just to launch remarketing campaigns on LinkedIn, because they just due to those cost benefits. Because in Facebook, for example, they don't give you those types of cost benefits. Typically, the cost per clicks are significantly more to hit your remarketing audiences. So I think that should be a no-brainer for any advertiser then, just to simply go into LinkedIn and at least launch some remarketing campaigns.
Yeah, cool.
Wow, that's a great point. Now, I definitely should follow this conversation up with a little note on the limitations of LinkedIn's retargeting, because it's a little bit nuanced here. It's totally reliant on a cookie. And of course, we know that about half of our traffic is going to come from cookieless browsers that are iOS devices, so iPhone and iPad. So be aware that anyone who's on one of those devices won't ever make it into one of your audiences on LinkedIn, but it probably will on both Facebook and Google. And the other thing is that cookie pool only lives for 90 days. So that means you've got to have a pretty solid amount of traffic to keep that pool full of people, because it's going to recycle every 90 days.
Yeah, that's interesting to know too. I'm going to give another nugget for that. So when we talk about audiences, let's go in that order. Actually, that makes it very, very simple to follow. Now, if we say that we recommend starting with remarketing, what would you then say is next from an audience perspective?
I think starting out with just warm audiences that are already on your website, what you know about them is that they are at least familiar with you in some format. What you don't know is who they are professionally.
Yeah.
So something that you could do to start segmenting them is say, we're going to create an audience from everyone who's hit our website, and then we're only going to show retargeting ads to people from that audience who are, let's say, manager and above, or director and above, or C-level, and maybe just the people who are in the marketing department, in you guys' case, if you were advertisers, So you can start actually segmenting through that audience. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, if it's just not worth your time at that point because you're working with a pretty small audience and it doesn't make sense to manage a whole channel if you're only going to spend $50 or $100 a month,
sure.
Then you can start really navigating LinkedIn's native targeting and trying to reach cold audiences.
Okay. Are there any insights from your remarketing audience, like with Facebook too, where we can see that your remarketing audience, people who have been on your site, or you have their email address, they are composed of these job titles, seniorities, or types of businesses with a minimum employee count? Is there anything that you can extrapolate from that to then go to the colder audiences with that information?
I sure think so. I mean, it's a little bit like causation what's the phrase? Correlation does not prove causation. So if you create a retargeting audience of, let's say, everyone who's hit one of your landing pages or thank you pages,
right.
So these are people who are actually pretty serious. They've at least seen an offer. And you go to retarget, and you go and build an audience around them because these are the people who tend to convert.
Yeah.
What you might extrapolate from that is, wow, everyone who converts with us is is in marketing and they're a decision maker. But what you might not understand is that you drove that traffic from some other format, or they're still finding you through some other channel. And so you might say, oh, those are our customers, when really you're talking about the customers you already have, not the ones that you could potentially have.
Right.
But here's something really cool that I think everyone can do, whether or not you're going to spend a dime on LinkedIn ads, is if you just install the pixel on your website, install it on every page, you go and open a LinkedIn ads account. Like I say, you don't pay a cent for this.
Yeah.
And you go into your audience demographics. I think it's called website demographics tab. And you're going to have LinkedIn data on all of your, like the professional audience data on everyone who visits your website, whether you're paying for it or not from LinkedIn.
Okay.
And of course, what they want to see is like, hey, wow, we're getting the vast majority of our traffic is from people who are not decision makers. We know we do better with decision makers.
Yeah.
Obviously, they want you to go and then start buying ads to reach more of the people you want.
Right.
But this is really cool from a just company demographics. So if I were you, I would go right now and create a segment just around the people who convert on your site, and then start getting website demographics around, what's the professional makeup of the people who tend to convert.
Yeah.
And then just see, like, are these the right people that you want to work with, or are they the wrong people?
That is amazing. I'm going to end this podcast right now and just kidding. I won't do that, but that is something that we're going to do right after. I'm going to give you another nugget for that too. That is quite impressive. Now, when you then, so basically we can take that understanding and maybe help that highlight which other audiences we want to target after we do the remarketing. Is that how you would recommend kind of going about it? Or you mentioned earlier too that there might not be, like, correlation does not equal causation. Is there other types of audiences that are better for types of messaging or ads or offers, or is it kind of like a combo of all things that you want to make sure are all considered?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So the way I like to picture it is, we know we have combinations of offers and audiences, and what we're trying to find out is the right combination, the offer that best fits the needs of the audience that we want to attract.
Okay.
So initially, retargeting might be a good place to start if you're really budget conscious. But if you're just trying to test audiences and you know that you're a good fit for LinkedIn and you've got a little bit of a budget, then what I would do is go out and you create in what I call micro segments, all the little pieces of audience that you think are a really good fit for you. So a good example might be if you're targeting people who are marketing decision makers, for instance, I would go and create a campaign just around marketing managers, a separate one for marketing directors, a separate one for VPs, and a separate one for CMOs. And I'm going to launch the same two ads to all four of those audiences. And what I'm going to learn from running these is, hey, after 3 or 4 days, we can already start to see, wow, CMOs really like this content, and managers don't give a crap. And those are some of the insights you can start just by making sure that they're all segmented.
Interesting. So would you say of the acronym that you have of AMO, the audience and the offer sound like those are the two most important ones where the messaging is different? Like that is not as vital? Is that the correct assumption?
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Because if you just said, we have an audience set and we have an offer set, and your job as an agency is just to run through messaging and try to increase performance, I know that we can play with that all day long and probably only increase performance 5 to 10%.
Right.
Whereas if you told me you've got a free reign of an offer, go and interview the sales team, interview our customers, create an amazing offer that we know is going to solve the pain points of who we're going after.
Yeah.
If I create the right piece of content, I can increase my conversion rate 4 to 10 over something else. So yeah, it's definitely, offer is where you want to concentrate on. I think audience is a given. It's just whoever is a good fit for your audience or for your company.
Right.
And then the message really comes down to how you're messaging whatever the offer is. And you can be a little bit creative there, but it's not going to make a big difference.
I love that. That is amazing. So in regards to what you can prioritize when you are live with your campaigns, let's just assume you are. The first step is looking at the offer and what you can change there. The second one is then the audience. And the third one is then the actual messaging. I think a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, they spend a ton of time within the messaging and the ad component itself, which, like you just said, won't really warrant enough lift in regards to what they're hoping to achieve. And they might then shut off LinkedIn ads and say, hey, this doesn't work for us. But the truth is it absolutely could. They just didn't focus correctly. Is that right?
I think so. If you start with a really solid offer, I mean, you can have the poop emoji, you can have misspellings in the ad copy, and it's still going to solve their problems, and it's still going to be really attractive and have a high conversion rate.
Yeah.
However, where we've seen playing with the messaging really help is that just like any other social ad, if you're running something on LinkedIn, you're showing to audiences who aren't actively searching for you.
Right.
And so over time, they're going to tire to it, and it'll become saturated to them.
Yeah.
So what we found is that saturation point on LinkedIn is usually between about 27 and 33 days. So that means you can pretty much run the same ad copy for 27 to 33 days, about a month, before you start to see your click-through rate tank.
Yeah.
And then, it's time to refresh ad creative.
So you said
you know that.
20. Did you say 27 to 33 days on average?
Yes, 27 to 33 days.
All right. Another nugget. I'm going to give you that. Keep going. Sorry.
And the whole reason behind that, I mean, obviously, if you know Facebook ads well, you know that saturation point is actually sometimes more like a week or a week and a half. And the reason why is because people check into Facebook 10 times a day on average.
Right.
But on LinkedIn, they're only checking once or twice a month. On average, obviously, we have some very active users.
Sure.
So yeah, just keep that in mind. Just make sure you're playing with your messaging enough to keep things fresh, but realize that the offer is actually what's going to convert.
That's awesome. You can't see this, AJ, but Matt basically has poop emoji stickers on his laptop from our first talk at the Unbounce conference. So when you must have known that or something like that, because that's exactly the type of offer that we would launch here at Client Boost. No, that's super cool. Okay, so we basically took it through in regards to like the ad fatigue that you just mentioned, to the focus in regards to the offers first, audiences second, and then the messaging and the ads third. Is there anything you've seen different in regards to ad type performance, meaning carousels, images, or videos for that matter too, or even like the lead form ads that don't even allow somebody to go all the way through the website but collects the information in LinkedIn? Is any nuggets you can share with us there?
Oh, yeah, I have nuggets for every single one.
Okay.
So just stop me so we don't go too deep into any one.
Okay.
Let's start with lead gen forms. So for anyone who's not kind of informed on this, lead gen forms are similar to Facebook's lead ads, where you're able to fill out a form directly within the ad and not ever leave LinkedIn's experience.
Okay.
This is especially helpful for people who don't have a really good landing page for mobile, or maybe they don't have landing pages at all and they just want to leverage the targeting. So these work really, really well for probably about half of our clients, and about half continue to use their own landing pages.
Okay.
So here's why you'd want to avoid, and then why you might want to accept. So you avoid them if you want the traffic on your website so that you can retarget it, because obviously if it stays on LinkedIn, you can't retarget that traffic.
Right.
You also want it or you don't want it if you track everything with UTM parameters, because obviously analytics can't pick up traffic that's not on your own site.
Right.
And it's also kind of hard to get that traffic or the leads out of LinkedIn. You've got to use one of their approved partners or Zapier to pipe that lead out.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're logging in once a day to download a CSV with your lead data, which totally sucks.
And human involvement makes that super slow too, and there's going to be mistakes made. I'm only speaking from experience.
Exactly. Yeah, we detest that. On the other hand, the reason why lead gen forms are so good is because you're going to see a much higher conversion rate on average. It's 10 to 50% lift on your conversion rate by using them. So if volume is what you need, then yeah, you're going to want these lead gen forms, even if you can't track or retarget the traffic, and even if it's kind of hard to get the leads out.
Okay.
And all right, so that's lead gen. Oh,
and AJ, when it comes to lead gen forms, I know you mentioned you get a lot better, volume from that. What do you hear from your clients as far as the quality of those leads in comparison to a lead that came from a landing page?
Yeah, very similar to what you might have heard from Facebook. The same kind of deal is we're asking people to do less. There's less friction, and because of that, the lead quality tends to dip a little bit. If you have really solid targeting, then of course you're going to be getting the right people. But sometimes you'll get people who the sales team will reach out to them and they'll say, I don't even remember filling out a form with you guys. I've never heard of you before. And they actually did. So they've submitted. They actually did it. But it was just such a simple process. They just clicked on the ad, said, "Ooh, that looks interesting," and hit submit with all their information auto-filled. And now they don't even remember you.
Right.
The other thing is that they didn't land on your landing page and learn more about what you're trying to talk them through. They decided to convert after reading 150 characters of ad copy at the top of an ad. So it doesn't make quite the same impression on their mind.
Got it. That's another nugget. Appreciate that. Okay. So next ad type.
Okay.
What do you think?
All right. So those lead gen forms you can actually attach to two different kinds of ads on LinkedIn. There are 4 different ads. You can attach them to sponsored content, which are right in the newsfeed, or you can attach them to sponsored in-mail, which come right to your messaging box, your LinkedIn inbox. So keep that in mind. The other flavors of sponsored content, just like you mentioned, we have carousel, we have video ads, and those are kind of interesting. Video is just you can't retarget based off of how much of a video someone's watched. I think that's probably coming in the next quarter or two.
Yeah.
But because they don't have that, and video ads are pretty expensive, they start at 6 cents per 2-second view.
Interesting.
Which is already 3 to 10 times more expensive than Facebook for video.
Okay.
So because of that, I don't love video yet, but they might get better in the future with retargeting. And then carousel ads, like it seems like a pretty direct copy of Facebook, just because it doesn't hurt to have. But for the most part, if we launch carousel ads, it's not like we see a giant boost in performance. It just means that now we need 3, 4, 5 landing pages and 3, 4, 5 images from a client. And so oftentimes it just slows down our process.
Okay.
So we don't love carousel, but you could sure make a case for it.
If you have the assets and the ability to create all the different types of ads, would you recommend having that in the campaigns too, or is there something where you say, hey, don't put so many ads in there that you're spreading the data and diluting it too much, or what's your take on that?
Ooh, I love it. So we always launch only 2 ad creative per campaign.
Okay.
And the reason why, and this is very similar on other types of platforms as well, but on LinkedIn, if you launch 4 ads in the same campaign, one's going to get the majority of the impressions, one's going to do okay, and then 2 are going to get completely ignored.
Okay.
Might get less than 100 impressions.
Okay.
And so if I'm going to go through the effort of building 4 different ads, I want them all to see the light of day, and I want to know whether or not LinkedIn likes them and people like them. And if they end up with 2 or 3 impressions before they just get shut off, that was just total waste.
Right.
So for any campaign, I say start with 2 ad creative, and then when one of them wins, pause the loser and then launch a new A/B test.
Got it. So kind of, are you saying to make a variation off the winning ad, so it's almost like a smaller tweak, or do you introduce like a brand new ad type and also messaging potential?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on what your strategy is and what you're trying to test. For a lot of our clients, we're testing different offers. Maybe they come to us and they say, we've got 3 different offers. So we're going to launch 1 ad per offer for 2 separate offers. And when one of those loses, we're going to assume that the losing ad was the losing offer. And so now we want to test, okay, how about this 3rd offer that we had? And so we want to launch 1 ad for each
okay.
of them.
That makes sense. I like that. Okay.
But on the other hand, if you're starting with just 1 offer and your messaging is just different motivations for why someone might want to engage with that offer, then if you know that making them feel like the hero is more advantageous than trying to cause fear, then great, try another variation that is more aspirational.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Is there anything we're missing, AJ, in regards to, the silver bullets, or, you've done and learned through much, much hard work and a lot of data and a lot of dollars of ad spend? Anything that we're missing from this conversation so far?
So let's talk about the other 2 ad formats, because there might be some nuggets here. So the very first ad format that LinkedIn ever had that they released back in 2007 was called text ads. And they sit over on the right rail only on desktop.
Okay.
So they get looked over a lot. And the reason we know that they get looked over a lot because they have a click-through rate on average of 0.025%.
Okay.
So that's 2.5 people clicking out of every 10,000 times these are shown.
Dang.
So
okay.
these are pretty much the definition of banner blindness, right?
Yep.
But on the other hand, don't look past them because, first of all, the traffic only comes from desktop. So if you have a poor mobile experience, or maybe you're asking for so many fields that people just won't fill out on mobile, but you just need that information, then this might be the ad unit for you. And then also realize that they're LinkedIn's cheapest ad format. You can bid all the way down to $2 a click for them, but most people are paying $3 to $5.
Okay. Awesome.
And then we mentioned it a little bit, sponsored in-mail. So sponsored in-mail is really insanely expensive on average. And the reason why is because you pay per send, not per click. So if you send an in-mail message to someone and it just feels like spam, it doesn't feel like anything special, then it's going to get ignored. And you just paid 35 to 85 cents to send someone something that they were just going to ignore.
Sure.
So it's quite a bit more risky than something like sponsored content or text ads that we just talked about, where you only pay when someone clicks.
Right.
So what this requires is a very special kind of offer. So be thinking, if I got this as an email, would it feel like spam, or does it feel like a personal invitation?
Okay.
Because if it feels like a personal invitation, it's probably going to perform very well. If not, it'll feel like spam.
Yeah.
So some examples of offers that tend to work really well like this are free events, job offers, maybe something like, because of who you are in the industry, we want to give you early access or a sneak peek, special VIP treatment. An offer like that, sponsored email will work great.
Okay.
Everything else, just avoid, because you're going to pay 35 to 85 cents to send it to someone. You'll have a 50% open rate and then only a 3% click-through rate based on that. So you do the math and you end up at like $26 a click.
Okay.
On average, that sucks. But if you have a special offer, you're going to be way above average.
Sure. So it sounds like you just dropped 3 nuggets, and to not to annoy our listeners with a lot of clucking, I wanted to ask you real quick on that note. Is there basically, have you seen advertisers out there that can basically take advantage of all the advertising formats in LinkedIn pretty well, even if, like you said, they have to be creative in regards to like the in-mail ads that you just mentioned? Is that possible? Can people have that expectation if their execution is correct?
Yeah, there are certain kinds of offers or companies and offers that just can do no wrong. And those are things like recruiting messages.
Yeah.
So if you show an ad to someone saying, hey, you look qualified, we want to talk to you and potentially offer you something, who's not going to click on that?
Right.
You get crazy interaction rates, meaning that your costs come down super low per click.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's really attractive, so you have a really high conversion rate.
Okay.
So you can pretty much use any type of ad format if you're doing recruiting. And this could be even something that Client Boost does. When you're looking for a new marketing manager, throw an ad out there in any ad format, target people who have the title of marketing manager in your area, and then just wait for applications to roll in. And it's very, very good. But on the whole, I would say the majority of other companies, depending on what that offer is, if it's gated content, I'm always going to suggest sponsored content.
Okay.
If it's, if it's an in-person event, I'm going to say sponsored content plus in-mail. If it's a demo request, I'm always going to say text ads. So it just depends a little bit on the flavor of each format.
That's amazing. If we wanted to recruit new clients, not people we want to hire, maybe we can swing the creativity that way. I'm not sure. It sounds like it's going to be pretty tough. Well, this is
totally.
super, super awesome, AJ. Very, very thankful of what you're telling us. Is there any last tidbits you want to leave our listeners off with, or do you think we've covered everything?
We've mentioned a little bit early on about how to micro-segment audiences so that you can learn more about the different seniorities. What I would also add to that is, for any type of person that you're trying to reach on LinkedIn, there's going to be probably 4 separate ways that you could reach them. And then just realize that because of LinkedIn's system and some things they know about some people and some things they don't, it really helps to overlap your targeting and try to make sure you catch everyone.
Okay.
So those 4 targeting types are target by job title, which everyone does, so it becomes more expensive per click, but it's pretty targeted. You have job function plus seniority, so the department they work in and their level of seniority. You have skills plus seniority and groups plus seniority.
Okay.
So if you were trying to reach marketing managers, you might have 4 separate campaigns. You can reach them by job title, by function, by skill, and by group.
Yeah.
And if you have all 4 of those different types of targeting all running separately, you'll start to notice little efficiencies pop up here and there, like, ooh, job function targeting is less expensive, and because of that, we can get a lower cost per lead. Or job title targeting brings us better quality leads, so we're happy to pay a buck more per click for that kind of thing.
Got it. Those are some crazy nuggets too. So it sounds like you're basically recommending focusing on granularity when it comes to your campaigns, because when you do that, you can see their individual performance and then kind of navigate where you want to go after that.
Man, I couldn't have said it like that. That was great. Yes, exactly.
Well, it's amazing talking to you, because we have kind of set up our own like recipes and rules, and we've done it so often with a lot of clients across platforms that we feel like they're almost becoming like laws. And it's really interesting to hear from you, because you and I have never spoken about this before, and so to hear the similarities are pretty amazing to hear, and also exciting that a lot of this follows just very, very solid fundamentals and an amazing execution at the same time. And then again, knowing what to prioritize once you're live as well.
That's right. And, marketing, it's all the same principles. It always has been, because people buy the same way. It's just different approaches. So I'm not surprised that our strategies have really reinforced each other, even though we haven't talked before.
That is awesome. You and I will have another episode where we're going to basically advertise on trash cans and see what we can do as long as the execution is correct. We'll figure it out.
Love it.
AJ, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate that. We're excited. We're going to have some questions coming through the audience too. And so if anything is applicable to you, we'll send it your way, and hopefully we can get some answers to the questions.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, Matt, party on. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you,
Awesome.
sir.
Thanks, AJ.
Bye.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, Alex, and thank you so much for being with us on Boost Sauce. How are you?
Of course. I'm fantastic. Just living the LinkedIn dream. How are you?
Doing great. I'm actually standing here by myself today. I usually have a co-host, but they abandoned me, so it's just myself that you're going to be talking to.
Oh, okay. Well, that's totally cool. I have confidence that you'll carry it for the team.
I'll try. But basically, I wanted to introduce you and also to our listeners. Alex, you are basically, I looked this on LinkedIn, so tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's correct, an award-winning global content creator and the content marketing manager at LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Yes, you're going to make me blush, but yeah, that is true. I've been at LinkedIn for almost 5 years now.
Wow.
So I'm basically like a relic around here because our company has grown so quickly recently, which is amazing. But yeah, so I'm basically the kind of like the higher level strategy, creating campaigns for both the marketing solutions and actually the sales solutions business as well.
Yeah.
So building those broader campaigns, thinking through the paid and organic strategy, the distribution, all of that good stuff, the reporting, obviously.
That's so cool. So basically, you know that this episode is about LinkedIn ads and how content can kind of influence that. And we're basically going to be talking about how LinkedIn uses LinkedIn for marketing purposes.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. We definitely, I actually co-authored an ebook on this exact topic with my demand gen partner and then an ad ops partner as well. It's called, I'll do a shameless plug, but it's called Secret Sauce.
Okay.
So yeah, it's essentially like how LinkedIn marketing solutions, how we kind of like drink our own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Through A/B testing and seeing like what products work best together and all that great stuff.
So what's kind of crazy is that the name of this podcast is Boost Sauce, and you literally published something called The Secret Sauce. So it couldn't be more perfect of a joint partnership here that we're talking about today. So I want to start off and basically you're going to have a lot of data to support, everything that you're mentioning too. Let's talk about sponsored content. So basically sponsored content ads. There's a lot of things that I found out there in regards to like best practices. You know that this podcast is about dropping nuggets. Like what would you say for somebody getting started with LinkedIn advertising and especially the sponsored content side?
Yeah, so sponsored content it's our flagship native advertising product, and it's probably like still our most popular, although video ads are definitely like are making an impact too. But so things to think about with sponsored content, I think a lot of people are curious of like what to share on sponsored content. So I'd say some tips there. You can do links to like your latest and greatest ebooks. You can do case studies. You can do industry articles that really helpful how-to content.
Yeah.
I think something to think about as well, or one of the many things to think about is that visual is definitely like the new headline. So that's what we like to see on our team anyway. And you want to make sure that that your image is kind of like the thumb stopper in the feed, because I see too many people that the content is so great, but then the visual that accompanies it is kind of like an afterthought. So making sure that you definitely like move beyond stock photos, get something that's bright, make sure the image matches the messaging. And then also, so actually 80% of sponsored content engagement comes from mobile devices.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that your website or your landing page design is super responsive.
Of course, that makes sense. Now, when you guys do anything that you guys see on the back end from a sponsored content, like you mentioned, it could be your own blog post, it could be an ebook, a case study, statistics you mentioned too. Is there any type of difference between, let's say, bottom of funnel or mid funnel or top funnel, or is there like what can people learn from in regards to that if they want to drive like direct response success on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, I think with any campaign, like you definitely want to like think about your objectives and back into that. So that the main objectives that we're typically trying to achieve with sponsored content would be brand awareness, lead generation, thought leadership, event registration. Although if you want to drive event registrations, I would highly recommend using our InMail product.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think you need to think through like what you're trying to achieve with it, and I definitely think it's important to have a mix of sponsoring all the way through the funnel. So like not just the bottom of the funnel, like super demand gen focused stuff, but the top of the funnel stuff. I've seen I think some companies are a little bit more hesitant to do that because maybe they don't see the leads that they're trying to generate or the numbers that they're looking for right away. But I think it's so important to have that top of the funnel content because, as we know, I think buyers now, like they interact with between 8 to 10 different pieces of content before they even raise their hand and talk to anyone in sales. It's super important.
Yep. Sorry, keep going.
So yeah, it's super important to make sure that your content is out there. Make sure it's not all just like case studies.
Yeah.
It can be more top of the funnel stuff too, just to build your brand awareness and thought leadership with your audience.
Okay, cool. That's amazing. And I read too in one of your articles, and it might be either the secret sauce or the tactical guide that you sent me. I forget what it was, but basically you say run at least 4 different creatives against one target audience to optimize for highest performance. Now this is interesting. In the other segment, and this is what I also love about this episode too, is that we'll have different opinions, but most of the time the data is going to win out. Now AJ Wilcox told us that he only has 2 creatives per targeting, and I'm guessing it's because he wants to learn quicker. So when you have 4 creatives, is that something that you guys found work really well? Is it because of the audience size supporting that? Like, what do you think?
I think that we just want to get the most bang for our buck in terms of like what's resonating with the audience, and then double downing on the creatives that are working well. So if you just set it to like auto rotate, then you can get a good sense of like what your audience is into, and then make nimble moves in the middle of your campaign to make it even better and more engaging.
Okay, cool. And then I also noticed that it said that if your sponsored content update actually includes a statistic, like in the actual like written portion of the actual text of the ad, there was a 37% higher click-through rate and 162% more impressions. Is there anything in addition to statistics that you found have a lift on those, what we would call micrometrics, but that actually support, lowering your cost per conversion?
Yeah, for sure. So our team, we have the motto always be testing, and we are always A/B testing all of our content, all of our campaigns, because we want to optimize and we want to make them better and better. Yep. So yeah, we found including a stat either within the accompanying header copy or on the actual image itself, you'll see a higher CTR.
Yeah.
If you have maybe like a quote, people love those like snackable little nuggets. So like quotes and stats always do really well for us.
Cool.
Yeah. And then rich media images have a 38% higher click-through rate than just links your updates without a thumbnail image preview.
Okay.
We've also found that you want to keep your accompanying header copy kind of like short and sweet and concise. So that would mean about 150 characters or less. Is typically what we would suggest.
Nice.
I totally forgot what I was forgot my train of thought there. The chicken. Yeah, and what else? And yeah, I mean, in regards to the header copy too, you definitely want to have a CTA at the end of it that's actionable. So like
call
get your guide or register today or sorry, call to action.
No, it's fine. Cool.
You want to sit out of marketing jargon.
Yeah, you mentioned rich media images. What the heck is a rich media image?
So I mean, like when you post an update including an image that's 1200 by 627 pixels.
Okay.
That's the graphic size that we use here. So that's kind of like the optimal
That's
size.
considered a rich media?
That you place in the ad rather than just having it populate like whatever interior image that might be there.
And I saw, because I thought for a second it was like the more money you can put into the actual visual, the better. But that's not the case at all.
The more expensive images. No.
That Bugatti.
No,
that makes sense.
That's that's not the case at all. And in fact, like we've gotten pretty scrappy on our team here where we were kind of sick of seeing the same stock photos over and over again that like everyone uses. So we had an internal photo shoot with our marketers here. So you'll see in a lot of our sponsored content ads and other parts of our campaign, you actually are seeing the marketers that work here, including yourself truly, and my manager.
Wow.
Sure. Her face has a great click-through rate.
We're going to have to get that when we put it in the show notes, and we'll have some examples of that. So you guys are basically making your own stock photos, it sounds like.
Kind of, but they're not stock photos because they're more visually interesting, Jonathan.
Okay, sorry, because you had that Bugatti next to you. I forgot about that. Okay, moving on. But basically, the rich media images, the stat that I saw was basically it has a 38% higher click-through rate than the thumbnail image preview that you mentioned, which is pretty impressive. Now, one other thing I noticed is that when it comes to the bids, one thing I saw, and I don't know if you recall this, but I'm just making things up. Just kidding. I actually read this. It says that if you set the bids 10% higher than the maximum suggested bid, there is a 15% lift in click-through rate and a 27% lift in conversions. That's impressive. How come the maximum suggested bid doesn't just automatically get 10% higher then?
You know what? I think you read that. I think you read that in Secret Sauce, and I actually can't really speak to that confidently because that was my ad ops manager who found that test.
Got it. So they could be lying to us. We won't nugget that. Okay, well, moving on. So when you have basically, and I guess this is not just necessarily for sponsored content, it can be a lot of the ads too. Like a lot of these best practices and nuggets that you're sharing can be used for, other parts of what you guys do, like the other types of ads, but also InMail. One thing I noticed too, I actually read your Social Media Examiner post, is that you have the 4 different creatives that you want to test against each other for one target audience, that you want to test one variable at a time. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's like any experiment that you have. If you have too many different elements going on, like you're not going to find a conclusive answer of why one works over the other. Yep. So I would definitely recommend choosing one variable first.
Okay.
And then going from there.
Okay, awesome. And then you also mentioned to run tests for at least 2 weeks. Is that to give it enough time from a variance standpoint, or is it also like confidence levels you're trying to measure? What was set the 2-week mark? What was that for?
Yeah, I actually think I might have said 2 weeks. I actually think it should be at least 3 weeks just to gain enough data. Yeah, to gain enough data and then make changes from there, just so that you have statistically significant enough results.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, probably 3 weeks to let it run, and then you can make some changes from there. If you're seeing some crazy results, if you're testing something and one image is doing way better than the other, then you can just make that change on the fly. But typically, I think 3 weeks is sufficient.
Okay, cool. And then basically, when you have different rotation settings for the ads, which do you prefer and why?
Yeah, I don't think I can speak to that. Sorry.
All right, we'll skip on that one.
Okay.
Basically, our best practice that we've seen, and it's not just coming for LinkedIn ads, but if you have the option to set things to rotate evenly, it allows the different ad creatives to have enough impressions and, of course, enough data to then, when the 3 weeks are over, you don't have 2 ads that are stealing all the impressions and then 2 other ads that don't have anything. So I'll add that nugget myself. There we go. Cool. So I'm not in campaign manager setting up these campaigns, but I do know that we rotate them evenly. Awesome.
But yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention though quickly, I know I talked about the video before, but LinkedIn members are spending so much time creating video and publishing video, and it's actually the most likely of content to start conversations on the platform. And
interesting.
In fact, in comparison to sponsored content, so LinkedIn members spend almost 3 times more time watching video ads compared to time spent with static sponsored content images. So although sponsored content is still a very, very important, a product and people continue to use it and it's really effective, I think it's just considering video ads as well.
There's a lot of things that show that engagement, even though it might not be the metrics that you care about from a direct response world, lead to the improvement of the other metrics like click-through rate, conversion rate, cost per conversion too. What's really interesting that I yawn and roll my eyes of is that people are like, oh my God, it's a year video, but that's been the case for the last 3 years, it seems like. But to actually have data support that they're spending 3 times as much time basically watching those versus interacting with the regular traditional sponsored content updates is quite impressive, but also gives a reason for why people would want to care and invest in better video, it sounds like.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely like the fastest growing type of content on the platform. And in fact, video ads earn 30% more comments per impression than non-video ads in the feed. So just another reason to
all right.
video.
I'm going to prepare you for this one because this is a different type of cluck cluck chicken sound, but it's a bit of the more impressive ones because that was a big nugget you just dropped. So here it is. See, we have 3 different versions. Now I'm only learning about which ones are better for which type of nuggets, and so you just got that one. That's really, really cool.
Okay, cool.
Now your world is more on obviously the content side, which is what we call the organic side, right? Is there anything that you've seen from like sponsoring different types of, let's say, like native posts on LinkedIn where they're not taken off LinkedIn? Is there anything from there that you've seen, or is there anything I'm missing in regards to asking questions about how the organic influences the paid?
Yeah, so we have a whole other ebook that talks about our recommended or suggested organic plus paid ebook that's featured on LinkedIn Marketing Solutions blog. Shameless plug again, but
yeah, no, keep doing them.
And it basically says that like they kind of need to like work together. So your organic strategy kind of fuels your paid, and you just look and see what's performing well organically, and then put paid behind it. That's typically, how we do it. So, and
sense.
It's also like a great, or organic is just a great like testing bed to see what's going to resonate before you want to invest more in something. So like we'll think about if we want to do a campaign on something, but first we'll publish a couple of updates from our showcase page, or we'll publish a post on the blog about it or something like that. And then just seeing what kind of engagement that gets helps us kind of guide our content strategy.
Yeah. There's now that I'm listening to what you're saying, there's so much opportunity where people are like, oh man, I'm just having a hard time keeping my own blog up to date, and let alone like updating blog posts to have them be more relevant. There's a whole nother piece of this, which is like the content that you have on LinkedIn is another platform that if you really want to be holistic about having better performing LinkedIn ads, you need to highly consider that, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, I think, step 1, build a compelling organic presence. Mm-hmm. Step 2, boost your reach and engagement via paid using the paid solutions on the platform. So like sponsored content, video ads, carousel ads, in-mail, text ads. And then step 3 is like the measure, learn, and optimize to drive more impact, which we could probably have a whole different conversation on that because we have website demographics and campaign demographics and the insight side and like retargeting and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think the kind of the bread and the butter is organic. So you kind of need to see what's resonating before jumping into ads, I think.
For sure. So we talked a lot about the sponsored content, ads and the updates that we can do there. Is there anything in regards to, you mentioned carousel ads, there's the lead ads, there's also in-mail. What kind of things can you share with us in other types of ad formats or targeting that might be relevant to our listeners?
Yeah, so I mean, for carousel ads, you can really tell a complete brand story. And I mean, you probably know what it is, but you feature a swipeable bliss series in a single ad to tell that deeper story, showcase multiple offerings, or provide insights to your audience. You can actually include up to 10 images, but our team only typically does like 4 to 5.
Okay.
Just because we found that's kind of like the sweet spot.
Yeah. For the carousel ads.
For the carousel ads. And then 75% of beta advertisers actually said that they will use carousel ads in their next sponsored content campaign, and that's largely due to seeing increased engagement and click-through rates as well.
Interesting. Can you have, this is completely, like, I don't know the answer to this, and I don't know if you do, but are you able to use video within your carousel ads, or do they always have to be static images?
Not yet.
Not yet? Because that would seem like the overarching, like, man, there's good engagement on the video ad and there's good engagement on the carousel. Let's combine the two and see what happens.
Right. Yeah, no, totally get that. I think that's a great idea. I cannot confirm or deny if that's on the product or not, but it's just not available yet.
Quick question I just thought of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, like, for other tips, you're talking about sponsored content earlier. Sponsored in-mail is all about sending personalized messages and has worked really, really well for us for reaching a higher caliber audience with CMOs and getting them to register for webinars.
Okay.
But also customers who use multiple LinkedIn ad formats together see improved performance. So when our team actually launched a sponsored content and sponsored in-mail campaign together for the same marketing campaign, we saw a 43% lift in click-through rate and 40% increase in engagement rate. So don't be afraid to kind of mix and match and pair our ad formats together when you're launching a larger campaign.
That seems, you actually beat me to the punch, because I was just going to ask about that, and like the combo of like that Venn diagram, additional performance that you can squeeze out of it. It's almost like completely unfair to compare to other marketing platforms or advertising platforms where you have the ability to almost do like this account-based marketing, because your target audience is already defined. And so you can just clone that over for your in-mail and see if you can actually get the ripple effect of quicker action, I would assume, which is basically the metrics that you just shared.
Yeah, 100%. And then I don't know if you're interested in other kind of sponsored in-mail tips from our team, but we typically, same theory with sponsored content and keeping the copy short and sweet, but our team typically keeps the copy under 1,000 characters.
Okay.
We use the image. We always use an image because visual's a new headline, but the image size for in-mail is 300 by 250.
Okay.
And actually, when we've done sends of in-mail to audiences, and it's like from LinkedIn Marketing Solutions versus like from me or someone on the demand gen team or whoever's hosting the webinar, we've seen better open rates that way. So sending from a person versus a company is probably a good idea. Including the member's name in the greeting, that's also one of our best practices. And then always including body hyperlinks earlier in the message to boost click performance. I think people typically wait till like the end to be like, register now, but not everyone's going to make it. Not everyone's going to make it to the end of your in-mail.
Yeah.
They might just read the first like 2 sentences and then, jump on to the next thing that they have to do. So it's important to kind of don't wait till the end to include the action button.
That's so interesting. I would like literally nonstop be hitting the chicken button right here from a nugget perspective, but I'm not going to annoy our listeners because you just dropped too many nuggets right there. So basically, when you guys go about creating like these quote unquote like checklists, because you guys have the best practices and you have the connection of all this data that you can look at, if somebody really wanted to go like full force, would you ever recommend that they do sponsored content updates, LinkedIn text ads, in-mail? Like, is there a way to kind of overkill, or is there a point where like, not enough is enough?
You definitely don't want to saturate your audience with these messages. Yeah. So I don't know if I would go like all in on everything at once, but I also think that our different solutions and paid products kind of achieve different objectives. Right. So like sponsored content is more like lead gen focused, and like in-mail is typically more probably more like event registration. Text ads is like brand awareness. So it's different, and it's actually I don't know, the whole campaign manager experience is changing. So now, like in the past, we've been very product forward, and now it's like, what do you want to achieve today? Like, what objective do you want to achieve? And then it's basically it's an objective-based advertising experience, which we didn't have before on the platform. No, so it'll make it easier for advertisers to come on and just to know which product to use, because I think in the past people have been confused about what to use for what objective.
No, that's always smart. Alex, I have no more questions. Is there anything I'm missing from my end that you can think of? If not, I want to, thank you so much for your time, but let me know.
I think that's pretty much it. We covered a lot of ground for sure. That's it from my end. Thanks so much for having me.
We're wrapping it up. Thank you. I'll give you one more cluck for the road here. Thank you for dropping so many nuggets with us. We're super appreciative. There's a really good chance we're going to talk about the LinkedIn organic side, and hopefully you can be a guest on that too. So, but with all that, we're super thankful, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to talk about organic too.
All right, thanks, Alex.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, loud and clear. Hi, Ty. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm pumped to talk to you. I'm doing really well. I'm excited. This is the first episode that we're actually recording today, so all my energy is with you, and then I'll sleep on the next one. Does that sound good?
No, I feel bad for the next person, so I have to leave you with some energy or give you some extra energy.
It's all good. I appreciate that. Maybe you can give me some audio caffeine or something like that. We'll figure that out.
Yes.
Well, I'm super pumped because when we reached out, like, one, the fact that you work at LinkedIn is awesome, and so there's natural authority, natural thought leadership, and then for the sake of this episode, because we're talking about different aspects of like LinkedIn advertising, I wanted to dive deep into like account-based marketing, which I feel like a lot of companies want to do and try to do, but they might not be the best at it. And so from a B2B perspective, like if we can take, you and help us guide through that journey, we would love to learn more from you. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Yes, ABM, account-based marketing, is so hot right now. I'm excited to talk about it.
Okay, cool.
Right
So yeah, I mean, give us the foundation. Like, let's break it down. Like, what is account-based marketing when it comes to ABM, so to speak, through LinkedIn?
Yes. Well, first, let me start by saying that account-based marketing is not a new thing.
Okay.
So it's something that we've been doing as marketers for years. And like content marketing, there's a respected traditional practice. It's just that more recently, account-based marketing or ABM has been supercharged with technology.
Okay.
So when you think of artificial intelligence and data integration, it's had a resurgence now, I think, because of the technology. So at its core, some people call ABM a flipped funnel approach or a flattening of the funnel.
Okay.
But simply put, it's more about aiming at a more well-defined area of the buying journey. So you're looking at your best buyers and you're treating those buyers in a much more personal way while focusing on the account as a whole. So you can imagine marketers have been doing that for years.
Right.
But we're able to supercharge that with technology. So now you can, instead of casting a wide net with just lead generation, marketers are using account-based marketing to identify key prospects and tailor customized programs and messages to the buying team within those target accounts.
Got it.
So a quick example is, you're selling a software as a service product or a consulting service, and rather than taking a blanket approach, you might start by focusing on those accounts in that space that have the highest need and the budget.
Okay. So in other words, you can go and target, like, let's say the marketing team within another company or an individual within that marketing team. So the scope, like your target size, is a lot smaller, more defined, more precise, and therefore ABM can also be more effective, but it could also be used in conjunction with your blanket approach too, I imagine, right?
So one of the things I want to zero in on is what you just brought up. So it's not just about the accounts themselves, but it's also about the buying circles.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you brought up, there are individuals within those accounts that you want to talk to. And that's why account-based marketing is not just about what your marketing team is doing. It's how you approach the overall strategy with your sales team.
Right.
So, and our buyers expect us to be better about that. So as you think about those accounts, you have to think about the personal interest and the people that work within those businesses and make sure that you're not just looking at the account, but each and every person that you're looking to reach within that actual account.
Right.
So whether it's the CIO, the CMO, the CFO, or the various people within that committee making decisions. So it's a multi-layered thing.
Okay. Got it. So if you're going after, let's say, everybody knows that ABM is so hot right now, they want to get on the bandwagon and they want to use LinkedIn for that too. From an audience perspective, you mentioned like job titles, for example. Is there a certain size, and we'll get into the tactical of like how you then go about setting it and like doing all the plumbing. Is there a certain size of audience or anything like that, but also like the messaging that you found work really well? Like how do they get started on that?
Absolutely. So just from a LinkedIn perspective, overall, we've got 610 million professionals and growing and over 8 million company pages.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important to think of LinkedIn as a place where you can uniquely take on your account-based marketing approach. So within that 610 million, what should you know about the audience you're targeting?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you this answer. It depends.
Okay.
So the point of ABM, right, is you want to focus on a select number of accounts.
Okay.
And considering the needs of your business, you might have an account list of anywhere from 300 to 30,000.
Okay.
But the way to begin is to say,
There was the first one. Keep going.
there you go. Yeah. So the way to begin is to first make sure that you're getting the list right.
Okay.
Because if you're not getting that list right in the first place, you might miss some big revenue opportunities, and you also can waste valuable time and resources.
Okay.
So, and so what we found is that some marketers will provide such a massive list of prospects
Right.
that their ABM may not be beneficial, and it may be better to just use our standard industry targeting option.
Right.
And then other marketers provide a list that's far too narrow to allow the scale.
Yeah.
So the reason why I say it is that it depends is that we're not out here trying to waste advertising dollars. We have to balance that targeting strategy and learn the details about the prospect,
Yeah.
where they are in the journey, to identify where it makes sense to target,
Sure. Sure.
how many it makes sense to target.
Yeah. So for the sake of our listeners or watchers or readers, because this will be in many different forms of content, let's say that we are a software company and we want to generate demos, for example, or trials for that matter. We're more on the enterprise side, and we then found out that there are probably, let's say, 1,000 prospects that are within the title and our target area that we want to go after. Is that size of a list enough? Because obviously not everybody will say yes and raise their hand to want to do work with you. What would you say to that?
Yeah. And so again, I think it depends. You always want to test because it also, your industry comes into play as well. So there's some considerations there. But the way it actually works is that you're going to uplist a CSV file of those names.
Okay.
And then we're going to go ahead and cross-reference that target list of accounts with the company pages in the ecosystem.
Yep.
And so depending on what you see in terms of the match that you get, because also keep in mind that with that broad list, you can then tailor it down, and I can share. I'll share a little bit more about that in just a second.
Okay.
But you can run targeted campaigns focusing on people up to 30,000 companies at once. But let me just break it down tactically, like how you might think about this.
Go for it.
Right? So one, as you get started with ABM, you may want to first create broad awareness across the company, because maybe you're not sure who's going to influence the deal.
Mm-hmm.
So you start with a bigger list or a broader targeting approach.
Okay.
And then you put more resources behind the tactics to zero in on the key people within that account. And your salespeople are there with you, learning along the way and engaging with them.
Okay.
And then once you've identified the players within the account, you're then mapping that ecosystem to understand who's engaged and what they care about.
Okay.
So overall, it's best to start broad and then tailor down as you go. And
there you go. Okay. That was like the first wave approach is what you're basically saying right now. And then take us to the next level.
Exactly. And I think, I'm really excited about some of the cool stuff that we're doing here, because with technology, like predictive analytics and lead scoring, you can start to get a really good sense over time of who your best customers are going to be.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, even just as a thoughtful approach, as you sit down, and again, like sales and marketing should sit down and talk to each other. We should all talk to each other more. You want to talk about existing accounts that have shown openness to expanding their footprint with your company.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to think about, does the account have an urgent need that we can address?
Yeah.
Would they have budget? And once you get the matches, then you can further narrow down the targeting with that additional criteria. You can layer in LinkedIn, like seniority and job function.
Sure.
So that's how you're going to, over time, create a custom target audience you can use for your campaign.
Got it. Okay, cool. And is there any other things? So obviously marketing and sales being closely intertwined, giving feedback to each other as to what works and what doesn't. A lot of people obviously know the value of not having silos, but still a lot of people don't put that into practice. So in this world, it sounds like that's extremely important.
Incredibly important.
Yeah.
And if we're being really real about it,
let's do that.
I mean, let's do that. So we're talking about, like, this is a customer experience play, as all marketing is. And so when you think about how you can be best in service of the customer experience, it's marketing, it's sales, it's product, it's individual contributors. So you want to be thinking about how do you engage your employees and empower them in service of that. Marketing is usually the best org to kind of be accountable and manage that. But this initiative, we've seen it perform best when companies take that approach of it is not just marketing in the game here. It's really everyone contributing to it.
Yeah. Got it. That makes sense. Now, is there a certain combination of the advertising products that LinkedIn offers that, because I kind of know the answer already, so I'm kind of giving you a little bit of a layup, but it's okay. Is there anything in regards to the combo of advertising types within LinkedIn or things like that you've seen work better when it comes to ABM and things you've seen not work as well?
Yes, absolutely. So, first, I think it's important to start with saying that it may seem like a massive departure from a lead generation strategy, but overall, you can bring a lot of the same principles that drive that inbound lead generation to account-based marketing.
Yeah.
Right? So to succeed, you're going to want to think about how you can create, run, and analyze these programs and how your team collaborates. But overall, the LinkedIn team, our marketing team, uses sponsored content. We use displays to use specific accounts and contacts. We also use sponsored email.
Yeah.
So you can use a lot of the same techniques. And in fact, pro tip, it's not just online that you can use. You can use some of the same account-based marketing offline approaches as you do outreach to your account, the accounts that you're interested in as well.
Yeah.
So, sponsored content is unobtrusive in nature. It appears in the feed, and it's a great way to open the door and attract attention. InMail is excellent to open the door with prospects as well with a new account. And from a sales standpoint, so I know we're talking about marketing, and our advertising can go a long way helping reach target customers.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't get you the whole way, salespeople can use InMail as well to contact leads directly.
Yeah.
And so with LinkedIn Premium, you can send a certain number of messages to people you're not already connected through with InMail.
Right.
So that starts to bring in the sales navigator side of things in addition to our campaign manager.
Yeah.
And so, over time, I think what you'll see is that we're going to continue to invest in bringing our tools together, so campaign manager and sales navigator, to make it easier for teams to work together.
Right.
In that way, we've been running a pilot for some time where we have an integration between campaign manager and sales navigator, where salespeople can say, these are the leads that are important to me.
Yeah.
And they get ported into campaign manager, where then marketers can target those leads that sales says is important.
So
that's really powerful.
Yeah, I was going to ask, let's stop for a quick second, because that Venn diagram that you just imagined, where you have your advertising targeting, basically, which is the campaign manager. By the way, you're doing a lot of pitching your own products on this show. I've just realized. I'm just messing. That's the point of it. I have a Coca-Cola bottle on my desk right now when we're.
Boy.
I don't. I'm just kidding. This is not American Idol, or I think it might be Dunkin' Donuts they're using these days. But you mentioned the campaign manager on the ad side, and then you mentioned the InMail. And so what I've heard outside of LinkedIn is that when you do both, meaning like cold email, for example, and display, targeting of the ads, you have this ripple effect, and the Venn diagram actually produces results faster for you. So now this is a perfect example of how marketing and salespeople need to work together, because the marketing people are not the ones, reaching out via InMail, sponsored InMail, for example. They're the ones behind the scenes on the ad side, for example. So do you guys have any data showing that doing both at the same time? Because I'm just thinking about our listeners and the people watching, if they only do one thing, but if they did both, they would be able to be more successful. Do you have any data on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So on your first point, pairing products together, we 100% have data that says that there's an uplift when you use more than one product within your campaign, because it is more visibility. It's it's the getting accustomed to your brand message,
Right.
and obviously bringing thought leadership to it as well is very important. But the other piece of it is research we've done that shows that the teams that work together most closely, so where there is sales and marketing alignment, we see better results. So in one study by Wheelhouse Advisors, they said there was a 208% uplift in revenue contributed by marketing. And that seems like a big number.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, if sales and marketing are working together, you're able to get into more accounts. In those accounts, you're able to close more deals.
Right.
And then the lifetime value of customers is greater. So if you add all those things together, it contributes to a larger overall uplift.
Right.
So it's not just about the products you use together, it's the way that you work together
Yeah.
to serve the customer and get in front of the customer.
Yeah. Makes a ton of sense. And it seems like a no-brainer. And the fact that we have to say this to people is kind of sad, but the opportunity is also pretty great at the same time.
Right.
So this is interesting. So I get a decent amount of connection requests, and I also know that a decent amount of those connection requests on LinkedIn are people coming pitching, right? And so me having no idea who they are, not looking to buy, and the first impression that I get is that like they're like, hey, grab a time on my calendar because I want to sell you something, is very, very off-putting. So I was like, the volume of people that I'm getting, of these requests is astounding. Let me see if it works for me. And so I didn't do it. And I hear nothing but crickets, which I actually think is one of my buttons I can play on my pad here, but I'm afraid because I might hit the wrong one and then I can't turn it off. But so basically I changed my method and I said, look, if I were to receive something that is of interest to me or something that could be of value, I'm going to change my pitch. I'm not going to go for the jugular right away. I want to court people a little bit. So I then changed the, go straight for the throat and see if you can get a sale to, hey, and this is because we're obviously a marketing agency. And so the way that I reached out was like, hey, person's name, I just took a look at, your company and found some opportunities and some holes that you might be missing in like your marketing execution. Are you the right person to send these to? ? And so I went from like, I don't think it was like more than like a 0.05% reply rate to probably like a 10% reply rate. And the truth is I didn't have, those things ready to share with them yet, but only if they actually replied that they were interested was I going to go find it. And I was, going to make sure that I actually found something because I already did like define my audience.
Right.
That worked a lot better. And so I'm really curious if you have any insights, thoughts, or even data about like when you do reach out or whatever, like the offer is or the call to action. Like I'm trying to build conversation first before I expect anybody to wave their credit card at me. It just seems like logical. What are your thoughts on that?
Right on. So I admire your approach, and
thank you.
I think so from a marketing and sales standpoint. So talking to marketers first, like marketers, like we've OD'd on marketing automation.
Yeah.
So it's efficient. I get that. There's so much benefit to it. But when we overuse it, or it can mean mass alienation,
right,
rather than automation. And from a sales standpoint, we're still cold calling, we're still sending emails that don't feel relevant. Marketing is doing the same thing. So it's really time for us to restate that because our customers expect differently.
Right.
And they expect, especially with account-based marketing, there's a level of personalization and thoughtfulness that you have to take on.
Yeah.
And so, it's a complex world, and the folks that we want to work with are hungry for knowledge to help navigate this landscape. And so I think one of the most important things, and this goes back to the relationship building aspect, is we need to spend more time and effort finding like what are the problems and the pain points that our content can solve. And that's really the entry point.
Right.
Because getting someone in that account to actually engage in a real way and not be irritated by that interaction largely hinges on how well that content can do its job and and also the amount of effort you put in sort of building a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, again, sales and marketing can work more closely together because sales is on the ground. They know what those pain points are.
Right.
Marketing can create the powerful content to help respond to those questions. And then, I love Sales Navigator because you can see on a day-to-day basis what type of content someone's sharing.
Right.
And you can engage if they change their job, if their company is hiring. So you can get a sense of what challenges they're going through and respond in a timely way.
Yeah.
And in a way that actually is supportive. Now, in terms of the overall types of content that we've seen perform well, thought leadership is key. So we do need to invest more in creating high quality content that does dig into these problems. But we found, terms like subject matter expert, valuable consulting, education, tools. These things rank high in terms of what buyers want to see from vendors. But so that we need to spend a little bit more time getting to know customers.
Got it.
And not so much on click here to talk to a sales rep. People are not really wanting to do that.
You basically, you just gave me the idea that if I'm going to sell LinkedIn ads management from an ABM perspective, I'm going to use this episode and I'm going to send that as a thought leadership link in the in-mail message that I'm about to send to them and be like, sucker, I just spoke with somebody from LinkedIn. You better hire me. Let's see how that works. Couldn't be more thought leadership-ish, I think. I mean, I guess we could do some other things, but it's a good start, at least. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, this is super, super cool. And I think a lot of it comes down to we know this from a lot of other types of marketing too, is that the cool thing is that you're able to split test this stuff. So the audience size, the messaging that you're coming with, the approach of the first message and how much value are you bringing or how much curiosity are you triggering in the prospect is really important, that we found out obviously with the little example that I shared earlier too. And then figuring out how you can speed this up, because I know a lot of people complain LinkedIn is so expensive. But again, if you're the type of business where lifetime values are decently good, it's an absolute no-brainer. And there's so much opportunity you can do. And I think just somebody running LinkedIn ads for the sake of running LinkedIn ads is not even scratching the surface of what's possible.
Right on. Right on.
I should be your hype man over there at LinkedIn. I'll get a lot of people to sign up.
Yes, I just need to put you on the stage with me. Let's do this.
Deal. Super, super cool.
Oh boy.
Is there anything I didn't ask about? Anything that I missed? Anything you think is important?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to talk really quickly because I think there are a couple key areas that are foundational to folks getting started in account-based marketing, and maybe one little thing to leave folks with. So, I mean, we found 4 key areas that are foundational to people being successful.
Okay.
And so one is just making sure at a foundational level, you just start to communicate more across your lines of business, in particular in marketing and sales.
Okay.
So having regular stand-up meetings to talk about how things are going, learn more about customer insights. Another thing is to have a common way of measuring success. So common KPIs that you can share between marketing and sales. You're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Understanding together what that a high quality lead looks like, and then continuing to use other data to help enrich that successful prospecting. So we've got some tools to help you do that. We're continuing to evolve our tools. Website demographics is a free tool that everyone can use to get more insights on people visiting your website.
Yeah.
You can hone in, among other things. And I guess I would just leave people with one last thing to get started is it may seem daunting, but if you just take one small step of even just starting to talk with your sales team, that small incremental step can make a world of difference. And so don't feel like you have to, go from 0 to 100 on your ABM plan.
Yeah.
Just take one small step. That incremental step can be incredibly helpful in getting started.
Cool. That is awesome. Don't come in Yosemite Sam and start shooting and getting too excited, even though It is exciting. I mean, that's my mentality. And even if you tell me to go slow, I try to go 110 miles instead. So
I got it.
hopefully people will take that advice. No, that's so awesome. Ty, you are amazing. So many nuggets that we dropped already in regards to getting started. Really, really appreciate you. This is going to be a really great segment within the whole episode. And so we hope a lot of people are going to get a ton of value. And, there's definitely going to be opportunities for you to come back and we can talk about other things too.
I would love that.
Cool.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Take care. Thank you so much.